All right, so I want to take you through my basic philosophy of hitting and make it very bare bones, easy to understand, and break it down. So what is it that the best hitters in the world, baseball or softball, what are the things that they do that allow them to have a lot of success? Well, to me, I like to break it down into three things. Number one is they have great mechanics. Their swing is very efficient. They use their body very effectively, whether they're small, big, they use their body optimally. Okay, so that's one. They have proper mechanics of the swing. Number two is that they have great timing. You know, when they're getting in sync with the pitcher. So whether it's a windmill softball pitcher, fast pitch, slow pitch, whether it is a baseball pitcher that's throwing 90 miles an hour plus or 50 miles an hour. It doesn't really matter how fast it's coming, it just matters that the hitter has proper timing of that pitcher. So we see a lot of hitters, that stand in there and they're like a deer in headlights. You watch their eyes and their eyes tell the whole story. They're not in sync with the timing of the pitcher and timing of their eyes to that pitcher. So in some of the stuff that I do in the video series that I do, we get into more of the aspects of timing. And timing is huge. I mean, you could have the best swing in the world, but if you have improper timing, you'll never hit. You could have great timing and have really poor swing mechanics, and you're going to put the ball in play and you're going to hit the ball, but you're not really going to drive the ball. You may be a one-dimensional hitter. You see these hitters a lot that everything is maybe to the pull side or to the opposite field side, but they very rarely hit the ball to both sides of the field through the alleys, as we call them, between left center field and right center field. So a good hitter, a great hitter, is going to be someone that drives the ball through the middle of the field, to the left field gap, to the right field gap, and they're not solely just a one-dimensional hitter. Again, back to the beginning. So we have mechanics. They have proper mechanics of the swing. They use their body very effectively. Two, they have great timing of the pitcher. And then three, their mentality and their approach going into an at-bat, their confidence going into an at-bat is at a high level. So three things: mechanics, timing, and approach. When we put all those things together, that's how we build great hitters. So today, I want to talk to you about more the mechanic side of things. So what are the mechanical things that the best hitters in the world do at these moments of the swing? Okay, so I'm going to take you through those. So the first thing, I'll break it down into 5 things. Okay, stance, what some coaches call load, I'll call gather. So stance, gather, our shifting of our weight, our turn to the contact or rotation to contact, and then finally our finish or extension through the ball. So what are the key elements within those 5 things that the best hitters in the world do? Okay, so let's take it through the beginning. The first thing is a player's batting stance. Now this is where you're going to see a lot of different things. You'll see open, you'll see closed, you'll see hands low, you'll see hands high. You see some, you see some crazy things, especially in Major League Baseball over the years. You see some crazy things. Bat resting on the shoulder, bat down. So here's the thing. How you stand does not necessarily have any indication of what's going to be the final result. There's been hitters that have had their feet close, feet wide, that don't stride at all, that stay real low. There's all kinds of things you can do. So to me, that's more or less like a player's thumbprint. It's all unique and it's completely individual. So I don't like to mess with players' stance all that much unless it's causing a problem after the fact. So usually when you look at a swing, you're going to see that there's some type of mechanical flaw or problem, and you can always trace that backwards. So if maybe they have an open stance, that can be fine, but maybe they're striding straight ahead and they're staying open, and that's not something that we want. So there's all kinds of little things within there, but I'm going to try today to keep this very simple, basic, and to the point with back to those 5 things. So let's talk about batting stance. Good hitters are comfortable, they are relaxed, they have some movement in their stance. So they have a little bit of flow. Now some hitters are more anxious and they'll have a lot more movement, and some hitters are just their personality and their style is a little more mellow, so they have like very little movement. But all hitters have something. Very rarely you see a hitter just standing dead still the whole time. They have some type of loose hands, they have some feeling of like a little bit of shifting of weight in their body. Hitters that stand up, they're dead frozen, they have no movement, they have tension in their swing. These are hitters that are just reactive. They see the ball, it's there, and they swing. That's the deer in headlights hitter. So what we look for is a hitter that has command of their batting stance, and they have confidence. You can see it in their eyes. You can also see it in how they stand in the box. One of the things I notice oftentimes is hitters distance away from the plate may be too close or too far. So basic rule of thumb for me is if I just simply lie the bat down across the plate, as long as that bat will cover the entire plate, I don't really want my foot much closer or further away than the edge of where my bat would be. So it's one thing I start off with hitters a lot, and they may be way too close, and then those inside pitches become very difficult for them to hit fair or to get on the sweet spot of the bat. So again, that's something that that we'll talk about in some further series as we go along. Okay, so batting stance, again, a couple review things. Very comfortable, very relaxed, confident, good vision, and of our timing of our eyes, which we will get into. The other thing about stance is the grip. Oftentimes you'll hear about knocking knuckles, so the knuckles that we'll knock on a door with. We want them pretty close to each other. The one thing that I see some hitters get to is where big knuckles, some people call them punching knuckles, are lining up with knocking knuckles. So when that happens, we tend to be wrapping the bat in our hands, and it sits back in the meaty part of our hands instead of in the fingers. So again, the closer we can get those knocking knuckles, somewhere in alignment, relatively close, it's kind of an indicator, something to look at for a hitter in their stance. Okay? So after we have a good grip of the bat, we have proper distance from the plate, front or back, we can talk about later, but ultimately, they have a good, controlled, comfortable stance, and they are looking hitterish. They are ready, and you can see it in their body movement, you can see it in their eyes. Number two is going to be when they start to gather their weight. Now, this is where there are so many different hitting models. There are people that will leg lift. There are people that will float out. There are people that will nose stride. There are people that will hitch and drop their hands as their foot comes up. So there's all kinds of ways. Again, every hitter is unique. That's something that there is no wrong or right way. Hitters are all different. So again, there are flaws that can happen within that step. So let's just go over some of the basic things from step one, our stance, to step two, when our front foot touches the ground. So when we stride or step out, again, this is for people that most people are going to take some type of movement with their front foot. They're going to pick it up and put it down. They might float forward. They may raise it way up and come down. There are very few hitters that will do nothing with this foot, okay? Some might just bring their heel up, as simple as just bring their heel up and back down. So step two, gather, taking energy from being balanced here and getting a little more into the backside. So sometimes I like to say is like, if we were in a 50-50 stance, 50% on both sides, that we end up getting a little bit more weight into the backside, okay? Some coaches call that load. I like to call it gather. So we're gathering back, we're gathering weight. Now, here's the essential. When good hitters land their front foot, their bat angle will be at 45-degree angle or so. If you're looking from the back, it would split their helmet in half. The problem with a lot of hitters is when they're landing, their bat is getting in a bad position. It may be falling, okay? It may be steep. So what we look for is the bat at front foot landing, splitting the head in half or pretty close. The other big one you'll see among hitters is if there was a laser beam shining at the camera out of the bottom of my bat now, what we look for is that laser beam at landing is going to point back behind my back foot. Oftentimes I'll tell my hitters, to the catcher's feet. So we create this angle of the bat as our foot is going out. Foot is going out. As a kid, you hear all kinds of things from coaches, and they try to be helpful, and sometimes it's just something they heard, but they can't explain it well. They just say, oh, get your hands back. So when kids hear get their hands back, it's like, okay, get my hands back. And then all of a sudden the front arm bar is out, gets long, our swing gets long, we become disconnected, and that's a problem. So when you study this for long enough, you begin to realize what words work, what language to use and what language not to use that sinks in with the people you're working with. So again, we have our stance, and then from there, we have our gather and our float. So however a player is going to gather back and float out, again, a key here to look for in a video would be when their front foot lands, are their hands back near their back shoulder, okay? We don't want to land with our hands below our shoulder. Some players will be a little bit higher, some players might be a little bit lower, but we're around that shoulder height. We have angle of the bat here at front foot landing, okay? We're in this position. So all hitters that are at a high level, they will look very similar once that foot lands, okay? When they touch down, they're not going to touch down with their weight onto their front side. They're going to touch down softly inside their front leg. So they have a little bit more weight back. Let's call it 70 or 60% is here. Our hands are back here. Our front foot's off the ground. Their feet, all good hitters, have wide enough feet. So I like to say the length of your bat is a good indicator. Again, the shorter your bat is, generally the shorter you are, the longer your bat, the taller you are. So if this is a 33-inch bat, my feet are going to be about 33 inches apart. They're going to be wide enough. Again, it doesn't have to break out a tape measure, but we want our feet to be wide enough. Why? Because the idea of hitting, just like throwing, is taking energy from inside the back leg and driving it inside the front leg. Okay? So we are creating energy, potential energy, when we gather our weight and we float our foot out as our hands are staying back. Weak hitters, and amateur hitters and hitters that need a lot of work, you see, this is what I see most often among the hitters I work with, is that their hands will go forward with their foot. So you just watch. Hands and foot will come together. This is a recipe for disaster, and a hitter that's just going to push everything out there and never drive anything out there. So best hitters will have separation. Their lower body will go forward, their upper body will stay back. Okay? And they'll land. So that's step 2. Gather and float. Hands are on a good angle, the bat is on a good angle, hands are staying back, weight is a little more inside the back side still, and I'm in this position. Both eyes on the pitcher. Big key. A lot of times you'll see players who do this and their head will turn, and if I were to close or cover their front eye and say, what do you see? They would barely see anything. They see just over here. So vision-wise, making sure that the head is staying out towards the ball and seeing it versus closing off our body. So closing off our head. So our body may close off, but our head is going to stay here so they see. Okay, so that's another little tip. All right, so we have stance, we have gather back and float out, and when we land, again, in this position. The third thing is going to be when we start to shift our weight. So now we're taking energy from inside that back leg to inside that front leg, but here's the key. All that time, our hands in that shift position, we're still creating tension back. So good hitters, you'll see their bat start to work its way back. So it will be in there as their weight gets in here. So it's almost like a pinching back of the back side, a pinching back as their front foot lands. That's going to, number one, keep our front side closed, and that's going to create a lot of energy through our core, which then we're going to unleash and turn through. So it's major torque being created by a lower body that is starting to shift and go, and an upper body that is staying back. Okay? So stance, gather, float, shift our weight, step 3. So gather, float, shift. Our weight is off our back side and into our front side, but a big key is the upper body is staying closed. I like to say for players to think about their chin just sitting against their front shoulder, right here. So when they can do that, their upper body staying closed, facing home plate, but their lower body is opening, as a right-hand hitter, maybe facing towards shortstop or third, now I have torque created and all this energy stored up, and now with this tension back here and splitting the head in half, now from there, step 4, is all I have to think about is my head is still, it's never going to move again, and then I'm going to turn to the ball. So I've gotten into this shift position, and now I just think, turn. Okay, so that path from here to there is going to be very efficient, very quick, close to our body, and not far away. Problems will happen within that sequence there, where hitters will get their front side will go, their bat will come away from their body, their head will go usually, and then they come around the ball. They hit a lot of balls to the pull side. Maybe hard hit, may not be, but they're not able to stay through the center of the field. They're not able to get the ball further back and hit it deeper in order to hit it harder. Okay? So they're getting everything out in front, their arms are already extended away from their body, they have no leverage anymore, and they're not getting the ball here where they can then drive through it to create that power. Okay? So, quick review. Stance, athletic, comfortable, eyes, vision, we'll get into that. Gather back, float out. Again, different ways of doing that. Shifting our weight into the front side. So we're in this position. And then 4, turn to contact. Okay, eyes, we'll talk about vision. There's a lot of things with our eyes and where they should be before the bat gets there. Okay, so this is position 4, is our rotation to contact. In this position, you'll see hitters palm down, palm up. Their bat is slightly below their hands. Okay, see some hitters, their bat will be up here because of something that happened before. Casting out over the top, all kinds of different things that happen there. So we're in this position, okay, which is position 4 at our contact point. And then the final piece, and really from here through to there, is really the fastest point where the bat really starts to explode with the hands. Because again, if I've shifted and I got my weight in here and this is staying back, and then I've rotated, all this energy is stored up through the ground, up into my body, and then unleashing through the hands into the ball. So we have contact, and then the last piece is extension and taking the top part of the bat and driving it through towards the pitcher and creating tension out here in my arms and elbows through in this position. Okay? Head is down at the contact point, and then the release. Some players let go, some players hold on. It really doesn't matter at that point what you do, but you want to be able to control the bat, not the bat controlling the hitter. So you'll watch sometimes hitters and then they'll lose balance, they're out of control, the bat is controlling them, versus at the very end phase, they are controlling the bat. So you watch good hitters, they will either finish and they have control of the bat, and it's almost as if they could bring it right back to this point. So a drill I love to do is, can you control it and bring it back? So after I hit, can I bring it back to that point? Or if I'm a two-handed hold-on person, boom, can I bring it right back to that point under control? A lot of the hitters that I work with, I find they lose control because they're trying to overswing versus using their body effectively to transfer that energy into the ball. Okay? So those are the 5 things. Those are some key points within each of those 5. My job when I work with hitters is to help them or diagnose what is going wrong mechanically within their swing that is causing problems with them pulling off the ball, swinging and missing a lot, and all kinds of other issues that happen within a player's swing. So hope that's helpful, and hope you got a lot out of it. Check out the site, teachmetohit.com, which will break down even further in depth some of the fundamental things of hitting, and start to get into some of the timing elements and other aspects of hitting that may be helpful for you. So again, hope it was beneficial, hope it was worth your time, and I appreciate you checking it out. Thank you.